My name is Frank Sheffield. I was a volunteer in Botswana, Southern Africa, in the years 1968 through 71. I was the advisor to the district council, which was the successor to the tribal administration in Botswana. I lived in a one-room mud hut with a grass roof, no running water, no electricity for 3 years, and it was the best time of my life. One additional story that proved to be humorous, as an advisor to the district council, we dealt with public water supplies, and in the main village of Kanya, there was a well that was outside the village up in the foothills, and the water was fed from there by gravity down into the central part of the village, and that's where people gathered their fresh water. One day, a gentleman from the local mining company that operated up in those foothills came to see us and asked if we had been up to our borehole and tank recently. Adjoining the borehole was a tank that was, an open air tank. And we said, no, and what's the problem? And he said, well, they had noticed that every evening at about sunset, the baboons were perching themselves on the tank, facing outward, and were obviously defecating in the tank that held the village's water supply. So needless to say, we were in shock and horror, and got busy the next day building a fence around the tank to make sure that we could keep the baboons out. So that's been a slogan of mine ever since, is be sure to keep baboons out of your water supply.
My name is Jim Owens. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Botswana. I lived in the village of Machuti from October, I believe, of '71 to November of 1973.
My name is Rod Morgan. I was a science high school teacher in Botswana, Africa, 1973 to 1976. It's about 3 years, yes.
All right, Barney Smith. I was in the country of Botswana from 1974 and 1975. I was the first year, unique story, the first year I was a math teacher at Shashe River School. And then the second year I was a hospital administrator for a hospital in Madinari, village of Madinari. The one thing that always stuck with me is that if you were asked if you spoke a language, if you said I don't speak it, they interpreted it as you knew the language, but you weren't about to speak it to them. It was an insult. You had to say you did not know the language. So they were very particular about certain phrases. I unfortunately lost track of all the people I knew there. One of the people I was there with was from not too far away from here, St. Cloud. Never have seen him. I wish I could. Somebody started a newsletter of volunteers before leaving back then, and there was probably 50 or 60 of us in a newsletter, but it only lasted about 3 years, which is unfortunate. And I haven't seen anybody since then. I wish I could.
Tony Carroll. I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Botswana from 1976 to 1978. After that, I served as Assistant General Counsel of the Peace Corps from 1986 to 1989. Since then, I've been living the third goal. I teach at Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. I'm Vice President of a company that works in African trade and investment, and I've tried to live the experience of the Peace Corps in many myriad ways, hiring former volunteers, hiring Africans, lecturing widely, writing extensively, and living the Peace Corps experience almost on a day-to-day basis.
My name is Craig Rockwell. I served in Botswana, Africa. In 1978 and 1979, I was a wildlife conservation education officer in Maun, up by the Okavango Delta. My job was to travel around the country teaching about the conservation of wildlife and taking kids into the wildlife areas on field trips. So it was an awesome job.
My name is Pat Halpin. I was a volunteer in Botswana from 1978 to 1981. I was in Kanye teaching home economics there.
I'm Matt Wonder, and I was Peace Corps in Botswana from 1980 to 1983, and I trained game wardens at the Wildlife Training Center in Maun in northern Botswana.
Hi, I'm Joanne Armstrong Brandwood. I was in Botswana from 1981 through 1983 in the village of Palapi, and I was an English and biology teacher.
My name is Penny Jansen Wynn. I was in Botswana from 1981 to 1983. I stayed in Labatsi and I taught ESL.
I'm Sarah Helbert. I served in 1981 to 1985 in Botswana, and I was a teacher in the town of, in the village of Molopolole. I was a high school teacher.
Bob Wright. I served in Botswana in 1990 and 1991. I heard a big commotion out nearby, and it seemed that other people in the school had found the snake. And the Botswana cannot abide snakes. They go completely berserk about snakes. And so they were gathering around throwing stones at the snake to kill it. And the snake reared up and opens up its hood. And I realized that I had been dealing with a cobra.
My name is Robert Ranger. I served from 07 to 09 in Botswana, and I stayed in the village called Pandamatinga.
Margot Brace, Botswana, 2008. I lived with a family with a very small child who was also learning to speak as I was learning to speak, and we would play games where she would say it in Setswana, I would say it in English. The day that I knew that she got it was when I was saying the cows and she was saying dikomo. Then the next day, 2 cows walked by and she looked at me and said, "De cowses."